The moment it started, I told myself it was nothing. Just a harmless flirtation, a fleeting distraction from the monotony of my marriage. But deep down, I knew better. I knew the second I let my eyes linger too long, the second I laughed just a little too hard at his jokes, that I was crossing a line. His name was Daniel. Charismatic, confident, and completely off-limits. He was a senior manager at my firm, the kind of man who commanded attention when he walked into a room. It was intoxicating, the way he made me feel, seen, desired, important. Something I hadn't felt in years with my husband, Ryan. Ryan was a good man. A steady, reliable presence in my life since college. We had built a home together, a life together. But somewhere along the way, things had dulled. The spark had faded, replaced by routine and unspoken resentments. I had started to feel invisible, just another piece of furniture in our carefully curated suburban life. Daniel changed that. It started innocently enough, long lunches, lingering conversations in the break room, inside jokes exchanged over emails. But then there were the late nights at the office, the accidental touches that lasted a second too long, the way my breath hitched when he whispered my name. I should have walked away. I should have gone home and tried to fix what was broken between Ryan and me. Instead, I found myself making excuses to see Daniel more, craving his attention like an addict. And the more I gave in, the less patience I had for my husband. I started snapping at Ryan over the smallest things. The way he left dishes in the sink, the sound of his breathing at night, the way he asked me about my day like he actually cared. It all grated on my nerves, making me resent him for not being Daniel. I stopped coming home on time, started making up work emergencies to stay out later. And when I was home, I was distant, cold. I knew it was hurting him, but I didn't care. I had already convinced myself that he didn't see me, that he didn't love me the way I needed to be loved. The affair escalated quickly. One night, after too many drinks at an office party, Daniel kissed me. And I let him. I didn't hesitate, didn't second guess. It felt inevitable, like something that had been simmering beneath the surface for months had finally boiled over. After that, I stopped pretending to care about the boundaries I was crossing. I threw myself into the affair completely, lying to Ryan with practiced ease. I told myself he would never find out, that I could have both, Daniel's passion and Ryan's stability. But secrets have a way of unraveling, and my betrayal was no exception. The night Ryan found out was the night I lost everything. I came home late, reeking of perfume that wasn't mine, my lipstick smudged. Ryan was waiting for me in the kitchen, his face pale, his hands shaking as he held my phone, unlocked, the messages between Daniel and me glaring on the screen like a death sentence. I will never forget the look in his eyes, shock, devastation, then something worse. A cold, detached emptiness. Like I had hollowed him out from the inside. "How long?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I couldn't lie anymore. "A few months." He exhaled sharply, nodding like he had already known the answer. "Are you in love with him?" I hesitated. That was my mistake. Ryan laughed, but there was no humor in it. Just pure, raw heartbreak. "You don't even know, do you?" I reached for him, but he stepped back, shaking his head. "Don't." The next few days were a blur. Ryan moved out. I tried to tell myself I didn't care, that I had chosen this, that Daniel was worth it. But as I stood in our empty bedroom, staring at the ghost of a life I had so carelessly destroyed, I realized the truth. I had been searching for passion, for excitement, for something more. But in doing so, I had lost the one person who had ever truly loved me. And the worst part? Daniel wasn't worth it. Not even close. The days after Ryan left were a blur. I went through the motions, showering, dressing, going to work, but everything felt hollow. My phone remained silent, no messages from Ryan, no angry confrontations. He had walked away without a fight, and somehow, that hurt more than if he had screamed and cursed at me. Daniel was different now, too. At first, he had been thrilled that the barriers between us were gone. No more sneaking around, no more excuses. But the thrill of secrecy had been part of the allure. Without it, there was only reality, and reality was far less exciting. It started with the little things, Daniel taking longer to respond to my texts, suddenly having urgent meetings when we had plans. Then came the cancellations, the nights spent alone in the apartment I once shared with Ryan. The more I clung to Daniel, the more he pulled away, until one evening, he didn't bother hiding it anymore. "This isn't working," he said, not even looking up from his phone as he spoke. My stomach clenched. "What do you mean?" He sighed, setting his phone down. "I mean this, us. It was fun, but I don't think we were meant to be more than what we were." I felt like I had been punched in the gut. "So, what? You got what you wanted, and now you're done?" Daniel shrugged. "Come on, don't act surprised. You knew this was never going to last." But I had believed it would. I had given up everything for him, and now I was left with nothing. That night, I sat in the dark, my mind spinning. I thought about Ryan, about the life we had built together, the home, the quiet mornings, the love that had once been so steady and sure. I had taken it all for granted, traded it for something fleeting and empty. I picked up my phone, my fingers hovering over Ryan's name. I wanted to call him, to beg for forgiveness, but what could I even say? That I was sorry? That I had made a mistake? He already knew that. And even if he didn't, it was too late. Tears burned down my cheeks as I typed out a message anyway, "I miss you." I stared at the words for a long time before deleting them. He deserved better than that. He deserved better than me. With a deep breath, I set my phone aside, knowing that some betrayals couldn't be undone. I had made my choice. And now, I had to live with it. The weight of my choices crushed me, a silent torment that no amount of regret could ease. Nights stretched into endless voids of loneliness, each one darker than the last. The absence of Ryan was a wound that refused to heal, festering beneath the surface of my brittle composure. But the universe wasn't done punishing me yet. One evening, as I dragged myself up the stairs to my apartment, my phone vibrated in my hand. An unknown number. Hesitant, I answered. "Hello?" A pause. Then, a familiar voice that sent ice through my veins. "Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" I froze. It was Claire, Ryan's sister. Claire, I don't know what you're talking about," I stammered, my throat tightening. She let out a bitter laugh. "Don't insult my intelligence, Hannah. I know everything. About Daniel. About the lies. And guess what? So does Ryan." My heart plummeted. The air in my lungs turned to lead. "I didn't mean for it to happen," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "Oh, spare me the excuses," Claire spat. "Ryan deserved better. And now, he's finally seeing that." The line went dead. I stared at my phone, my hands trembling. Then, another message came through. From Ryan. One word. "Goodbye." A shiver crawled down my spine. It was over, truly over. But as I stood there, frozen in place, something deeper gnawed at me, a realization that sent a sickening dread curling in my stomach. If Claire had found out about the affair, who else knew? And what else did they know? Panic surged through me as I reread Ryan's message, my fingers gripping the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. Goodbye. The word echoed in my mind, its finality a punch to the gut. My breath hitched, my vision blurred with tears. Claire's call had rattled me, but Ryan's message? That shattered me. I had to see him. I had to fix this. Without a second thought, I grabbed my keys and rushed out the door, barely remembering to lock it behind me. My heart pounded as I sped through the empty streets, my mind racing with all the ways this could go wrong. What would I even say? That I was sorry? That I had made a mistake? Words felt useless now. Ryan's car was in the driveway when I pulled up to our house, no, his house now. The sight of it, of the life I had abandoned, nearly made me crumble. But I couldn't turn back now. I knocked on the door. No answer. I knocked again, harder this time. Ryan. Please, just talk to me, I pleaded, my voice cracking. Silence. Then, the door creaked open. But it wasn't Ryan standing there. It was Daniel. A slow, cruel smile spread across his face. Well, this is awkward. My stomach dropped. What the hell are you doing here? I hissed, shoving past him into the house. I scanned the dimly lit living room, searching for Ryan. Daniel closed the door behind me, his movements slow, deliberate. I could ask you the same thing. Where is he? My voice was barely above a whisper. Daniel sighed, shaking his head. Gone. Packed up and left a few hours ago. He didn't tell you? I staggered back, the weight of his words knocking the air from my lungs. Gone? No. That couldn't be possible. You're lying, I spat, my hands trembling. Daniel stepped closer, tilting his head. Am I? Maybe. Maybe not. Either way, you're too late, Hannah. I wanted to scream, to hit him, to demand answers. But before I could react, my phone buzzed in my hand. An unknown number. I swallowed hard and answered. Hello? A familiar voice, low, menacing, sent a chill down my spine. You should have been more careful, Hannah. Now it's my turn to play. The line went dead. And suddenly, I knew. This wasn't just about Ryan anymore. A shiver ran down my spine as the phone call ended, the silence in the room suddenly deafening. My hands trembled as I lowered the phone, my breath coming in sharp, shallow gasps. Who was that? And what did they mean by my turn to play? Daniel watched me, his smirk widening. Bad news? He asked, feigning concern. I shot him a glare and stepped back. You need to tell me where Ryan went. Now. He chuckled, shaking his head. I don't owe you anything, Hannah. You made your bed. Now you get to lie in it. Panic clawed at my chest, but I refused to let him see it. I turned on my heel and ran out of the house, my heart hammering as I got back into my car. If Ryan was really gone, I needed to find him before this got worse. As I sped away from the house, my phone rang again. Another unknown number. I hesitated but answered. Who is this? A low chuckle echoed in my ear. You really don't know, do you? You thought Daniel was the problem. But he's nothing compared to me. My blood ran cold. What do you want? I whispered. The voice hummed in amusement. I want you to suffer, Hannah. Just like he did. Just like you made him. And trust me, this is just the beginning. The call ended. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. Whoever this was, they weren't bluffing. And I was running out of time to figure out what they wanted before it was too late. The only place I could go now was Ryan's office. If he had left town, maybe someone there knew where he was heading. But as I approached the towering building downtown, a new fear slithered through me. What if I wasn't the only one looking for him? I sat in my car outside Ryan's office building for what felt like an eternity. The weight of my choices, my betrayal, pressed against my chest like a stone. He was gone, and I had no one to blame but myself. Taking a deep breath, I forced myself to think rationally. I had to find him, at least to explain, to try, however hopelessly, to make amends. My first stop was our old apartment, but his key was missing from the usual spot, and the closets had been emptied. He hadn't just left the city, he had erased himself from our life. Days passed in a blur. My calls went unanswered, my texts unread. Daniel had long since stopped reaching out, and I realized, with a sinking feeling, that I had no one left. My job became my only solace, but even there, whispers followed me. Office affairs were never truly secret, and the damage to my reputation was done. All mysterious calls have stopped. Then, one evening, a single text message appeared on my phone. Meet me at Joe's Cafe. Tomorrow. 7 p.m. My heart stopped. It was from Ryan. The next night, I arrived at the cafe early, my nerves frayed. When he finally walked in, he looked different, leaner, sharper, but also resigned. "Thank you for coming," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Ryan nodded, studying me with an expression I couldn't read. "I needed to see you," he admitted. "For closure." Tears pricked my eyes. "I was selfish. I ruined everything." He exhaled, then nodded. "Yeah. You did." His honesty was like a slap, but I knew I deserved it. "I don't expect forgiveness. I'm moving on, Hannah," he interrupted. "You should, too." Silence stretched between us, heavy and final. I wanted to beg, to promise to change, but it was clear, Ryan was already gone. Not physically, but in every way that mattered. He stood, leaving enough cash on the table to cover both of our drinks. "Goodbye, Hannah." I watched him walk away, knowing this time it was truly over. And for the first time, I had to face what I had lost, alone.